It's a privilege to join you all tonight on behalf of Wilmer Hale to present the 2024 John H. Pickering Award. John Pickering, one of the founding partners of Wilmer Cutler Pickering, now Wilmer Cutler Pickering Hale and Dorr, was a visionary, recognized not only for his exceptional legal acumen, but also for his passionate advocacy of pro bono service and his unwavering commitment to justice. The Pickering Award, presented by PBI in collaboration with the Pickering family and Wilmer Hale, was created to honor a man whose career of service shaped our firm from its inception. This award is given annually to a law firm that embodies John's spirit of service and reflects the exceptional commitment to pro bono work that he instilled in our firm. While John was involved in numerous cases throughout his career, he was particularly proud of his role in launching PBI's Law Firm Pro Bono Challenge initiative, which is now a standard in the legal profession. The challenge sets an aspirational goal for law firms worldwide to make pro bono service a core part of their mission. Firms that sign on to the challenge publicly affirm their institutional commitment by dedicating either 3% or 5% of their total billable hours to providing pro bono legal services for those most in need. John was forward-thinking. He recognized that the challenge represented a pivotal shift in the values and culture of major law firms, and he was proud that our firm was the first to sign on. He believed that the true measure of a great firm was its dedication to pro bono clients, and that this work was not the sole responsibility of junior associates, but a duty shared by the firm's most senior and distinguished lawyers. That commitment to those in need and to those organizations like PBI that serve those clients every day is more vital today than it has ever been. Wilmer Hale is honored to continue John Pickering's legacy by presenting the PBI Award, which recognizes law firms that demonstrate that exceptional commitment to pro bono service. This year, we are proud to recognize Munger, Olson, a firm that embodies John Pickering's spirit through its steadfast dedication to pro bono excellence. As a charter signatory of PBI's Law Firm Pro Bono Challenge, Munger, Olson has consistently been a leader in using its resources to address some of society's most pressing issues, be it voting rights, civil liberties, racial and criminal justice, housing, women's rights, and LGBTQIA+ rights. The firm's commitment is undeniable. Munger, Olson attorneys consistently dedicate more than 6% of their billable time to pro bono work. Their dedication to pro bono, combined with their willingness to take on challenging, innovative, and life-changing matters, makes Munger, Olson a most deserving recipient of the 2024 John H. Pickering Award. Please join me in welcoming Munger, Olson's litigation partner and co-managing partner, Hailyn Chen, to accept this prestigious award.
Thank you, Claire, and thank you to all of the guests who are here with us tonight. On behalf of Munger, Olson, I would like to thank the Pro Bono Institute, Wilmer Hale, and the Pickering family for this year's John H. Pickering Award. We're proud to build on this legacy of pro bono work in civil rights, advancing racial justice, and closing the legal services gaps in our communities. Pro bono work has been a core founding value of our firm since its founding in 1962. We encourage our lawyers to work on pro bono matters they care about deeply, whether it's fighting for one wrongfully imprisoned person or for an entire community facing injustice. We're a firm of around 200 lawyers, and I'm proud to say that last year, our lawyers and professional staff devoted nearly 42,000 hours to almost 200 pro bono matters. Beyond these numbers, we maintain a relentless focus on delivering meaningful results in high-impact cases. Our attorneys don't simply advise on pro bono matters, they also take them to trial, and they pursue them as far as the US Supreme Court. Together with our co-counsel, together with legal aid organization partners, we've made notable impacts on a wide range of issues, from racial and criminal justice, civil liberties, voting rights, immigration, LGBTQ rights, women's rights, and challenging the death penalty. In the video presentation that's to follow, you'll learn about some of our recent pro bono efforts from the lawyers who worked on them. Now, we couldn't feature all of these matters in the video, of course, and so I wanted to note some of our other work. With the presidential election coming up, it's important that I mention our work in the Moore v. Harper case before the US Supreme Court, which affirmed state courts' power to enforce state constitutional limits on the authority of state legislatures to regulate federal elections. Had the case gone the other way, state legislatures would have had essentially unlimited power to control voting for congressional and potentially even presidential elections. And Don Verrilli and Ginger Anders, who worked on that matter, are here with us tonight. We've won asylum cases for immigrants facing dangerous, often deadly conditions in their countries of origin. We've worked to curb unconstitutional knock and arrest practices by immigration and customs enforcement. And Jake Kralkamp, who's worked on that matter, is here with us tonight. We've created a model for using generative AI to support legal aid work. So thank you again to the Pro Bono Institute, to Wilmer Hale, to the Pickering family for this year's John H. Pickering Award. It will serve as an inspiration to all of us at Munger, Tolles & Olson to continue to be of service to the community. Thank you.
My motivation to do pro bono work honestly stems from my experience growing up. My parents' English was not the greatest. I'm a child of immigrants. My parents really relied on me to do a lot of that negotiation and communication. And I also realized through accent discrimination that my father experienced at his workplace that the law is only as protective as your ability to use it. And giving back not just to immigrant communities, I want to be able to use the law as a sword and a shield for the people who don't know how to do that.
Everyone from partners to associates to our professional staff are encouraged to be involved in pro bono projects and cases that they are passionate about, and that can help make a change.
It's important to ourselves. It's important to our own professional development. It gives lawyers the opportunity to develop and grow in ways that may be different from their paying practice.
We measure the success of our pro bono practice by objective metrics, of course, the number of hours attorneys dedicate to pro bono work and the number of lawyers who perform such work. And over the last 3 years, our firm has dedicated more than 100,000 hours to pro bono clients.
You've spent almost 13 years in prison. How does it feel to be out?
It feels amazing.
The C.J. Rice case was an extraordinary experience. Mr. Rice was convicted in Philadelphia of attempted murder and had received a 30 to 60-year sentence, even though no one was seriously hurt in the crime. And as one dug in, it became very clear that C.J. Rice could not have committed that murder. The reason that Mr. Rice got convicted was ineffective assistance of counsel. And that's an issue that has always spoken to me in my death penalty work over the years. It's an amazing thing, the experience of actually freeing somebody who was wrongfully convicted. C.J. Rice was in prison for a very long time, longer than 10 years. Took away a key part of his life.
From the Supreme Court this morning, the admissions policy at Thomas Jefferson High School in Fairfax County is here to stay.
The Thomas Jefferson case is a good example of a school board recognizing that there were these long practiced aspects of their admissions policy, at entrance tests, interviews, that kind of thing. When they looked at them and looked at them over time, they realized that actually this is setting up a barrier to access that we didn't mean to establish.
My involvement in the Thomas Jefferson case came from being an alum of the school. I'd noticed diversity issues while I was there. It wasn't a very representative student body. And obviously took note of the fact that there were changes when the school board decided to adjust the admissions process.
This is one place where pro bono work can help, similarly situated clients, who are looking to, cast a careful eye over their practices and see where there are places where they're inadvertently creating barriers to access that they don't want to create.
A court victory today for opponents of the cash bail system in the city and county of Los Angeles. A judge has put a stop to it, at least temporarily, in certain low-level, nonviolent cases.
The LA bail case originated from LA County's practice of detaining people who are arrested under what's called a bail schedule, which is essentially a chart that if you're arrested for a certain crime, you have to pay a certain amount of money to get out of bail. Our case sought to stop that practice as a violation of the Equal Protection and Due Process Clause, because the bail schedule doesn't look at anyone's individual situation. It simply considers what crime they were arrested for, and someone who has money is able to get out of jail, and someone who doesn't stays in jail. In essence, it's wealth-based detention, which is contrary to our entire system of law.
The Police Reform Initiative is one initiative that grew out of a combating systemic racism task force that the firm created in the wake of the George Floyd protests. We partnered with the ACLU with their California branches, so they're our clients, and we have reached out to literally hundreds of law enforcement agencies requesting records of police misconduct in their possession. But when the law enforcement agencies resist, or try to narrow what they give us, or in other ways don't comply with the law as it's been revised, we bring litigation and we obtain the records that way. A broader goal of this initiative, beyond simply obtaining individual records of police misconduct, is to bring about a systemic change to cause law enforcement to be more transparent and accountable.
This is a public profession, and we contribute to the governance of the country, we contribute to the public welfare in our profession.
Pursue the issues and causes that are important and meaningful to you.
It's also important for us as lawyers to see the full spectrum of legal issues facing our community and to work with people who we might not work with in our paying practice.
There's an access to justice gap in our nation, and by participating in pro bono work, I get to help be part of the solution.
Now for more on the MTO Police Reform Initiative and our work with the ACLU, I would like to introduce Tiffany Bailey. She's the Interim Director of Police Practices at the ACLU Foundation of Southern California. Ms. Bailey works on policing and criminal justice issues with a particular focus on enhancing civilian oversight, challenging gang injunctions, and getting access to police misconduct records. She was previously an Arthur Lyman Fellow for the Economic Justice Project of the ACLU in Southern California, where she worked on litigation that challenged the criminalization of the unhoused community. Please join me in welcoming Tiffany Bailey.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you, Hailyn, for your introduction, and thank you to the attorneys here tonight for the pro bono work that you do. I am honored to speak on behalf of the ACLU of Southern California and to celebrate Munger, Tolles, and Olson for their tremendous efforts over the last 5 years as our pro bono counsel and as advocates for families who've experienced police abuse and violence. In late 2018, after tireless efforts from grassroots organizations and the California affiliates of the ACLU, the California legislature passed Senate Bill 1421, or the Peace Officers Release of Records Act. With this landmark piece of legislation, the legislature lifted a legal shroud that had made California among the most secretive states in the Union. This bill finally gave the public the right to access records concerning deadly uses of force and serious police misconduct, such as planting evidence or sexually assaulting civilians. Considering this is a room full of attorneys, I probably don't have to tell you that it's one thing to secure a right and an entirely other thing to actualize and protect it. Right after the bill was passed, several California law enforcement agencies filed legal challenges. The most egregious of them started destroying their records, forever denying the public and the families impacted by police violence insight into their law enforcement killings that robbed them of their loved ones. My first interaction with Munger tolls came about because of one of those agencies. A week before Christmas, this obstructionist agency was racing to destroy records before a follow-up bill would force them to disclose even more misconduct and uses of force records. The path was clear. We need to file a TRO to stop them from destroying the records. Well, it sounds straightforward, but again, it was practically Christmas, and not only was my boss out of the country, so was my boss's boss. So I was on my own. So after looping in our then director of advocacy, we did what any logical person would do. We called Munger tolls, Jake Kralkamp to be specific. I don't know how many of us would have picked up a call at that time of the year, especially for an emergency filing, but thankfully Munger did, and they helped us stop decades of records from being destroyed. Because of their because of their efforts, I was years later able to give my client the records relating to the unjust murder of her sister. While that was the start of my work with Munger tolls, it certainly was not the end. To stop the other agencies from destroying their data, the ACLUs sent out public record requests to over 550 law enforcement agencies for virtually all disclosable misconduct and uses of force records. If you've ever filed a FOIA request with just one agency, you know how difficult that would be. And we couldn't possibly take on this work by ourselves, but you know who could and who has owned this work for many years now, Munger tolls. This massive undertaking is now known as the Police Reform Initiative, and Munger tolls has stayed steadfast in their commitment to the work and the communities it serves. I don't think it's hyperbole to say that they must have engaged in hundreds upon hundreds of meet and confers with agencies. They've also meticulously cataloged and performed diligence checks to ensure that every record owed to the public was fully produced. They've even served as our counsel in multiple lawsuits against the most recalcitrant agencies. Thankfully, you don't have to take my word for it. The proof is in the results. After committing approximately 70 attorneys and professionals over the years, Munger tolls has compelled law enforcement agencies across the state to produce over 250,000 records, with still more to come. And because of their tireless efforts, and the fact that, some of the most stubborn agencies will suddenly become compliant when a firm with Munger tolls' reputation gets involved, nearly half of all agencies have produced complete records. But the story doesn't end there. The ACLU of Southern California is part of a consortium called the Community Law Enforcement Accountability Network, or CLEAN, which is comprised of various organizations and educational institutions. CLEAN is creating a statewide database to house all police misconduct and use of force records for every law enforcement agency in California. The 250,000 records that Munger tolls has already secured is an integral part of that database. Our hope is that this database will provide immeasurable benefits to the public for years to come. For example, under-resourced public defenders will be able to turn to this repository and search for evidence that could overturn a wrongful conviction or stop their client from being erroneously convicted in the first place. Journalists will be able to pore over documents and uncover a story about police abuse or misconduct that can hold an officer or an agency accountable. And families who have lost loved ones will be able to finally learn the details of their deaths, something that is too often denied. This will be a living database, one that attorneys, journalists, families, and the general public can draw from for years, decades even. This is part of the legacy of Munger tolls' Police Reform Initiative. It's also the sort of large-scale impact I dreamed about when first becoming a lawyer. Growing up in a predominantly Black and brown community, I've seen the havoc that systemic police abuse and violence wreaks and the destruction left in its aftermath. I came to this work because it was important for me to serve my community and make meaningful, lasting change in people's actual lives. Unless the human impact of Munger Tolls' Herculean efforts be lost, that is where I would like to end my speech. Through this work, Venny Eng, a Munger Tolls client, was finally able to access police records for the killing of his sister Jasmine Eng. Venny told me, "When you lose someone to police violence, so much power is taken from you. You are relegated to second-class status. By pursuing justice for families and getting access to these records, they have restored our humanity and confidence in the criminal civil legal system. We need top-rate lawyers like those at Munger to ensure that we are building a system where every person is seen as whole and deserving of dignity. This work plants seeds that can be watered and shows families that life is worth living." Thank you to Munger, Tolls, and Olson for fighting for those who have had their power taken away and for pushing tirelessly for police accountability and transparency. Because of the seeds you have planted, the ACLU and CLEAN are growing a database that will benefit the public for many, many years to come. And thank you to the Pro Bono Institute, the Pickering family, and Wilmer Hale for the opportunity to speak on our work. Thank you.